I say, come, let's stroll across the floor. Say, come, let's stroll across the floor. Then turn round, baby. Well, let's stroll once more. Here's my love. She's strolling in the door. Here's my love. She's strolling in the door. So turn around, baby. Let's stroll once more. Rock and rollin', strollin'. I'll see you rock my soul. How I love to stroll.
I don't know how many times I have walked from the Federal Hotel on a Thursday night after drinking a few beers and smoking a few joints and having a wonderful time with the Northern Gallopers, but then facing the reality of getting back to Cook's Creek and no one around and just walking home barefoot. Sometimes it was so cold. The hottest place on earth when it was summertime during the day, but the minute the sun would set, particularly in the winter, you couldn't get indoors quick enough. You'd be wandering around during the day with virtually nothing on. At 5 o'clock when the sun went over the hill, or even earlier, I think more like 4:30, there were short days in Kalang. Run for your life, get home. Shoes, socks, long pants, sweaters, jackets, gloves, hats. Sold. Back in 1972 when I came here, I don't think anyone had put up a for sale sign in the previous 100 years. Nothing had ever sold. Although when they brought in the bulk milk, like it only just came in the early 70s, bulk milk, and everybody had to get a refrigerated vat. CDA, the Central Dairy Authority, was just taking bulk milk instead of cans of cream. When people just used to put their cream out, the dairy used to come around once or twice a week and pick it all up, and it's no problem. Farmers had to separate it, but with bulk milk, they had to lay out $3,500 to buy this big stainless steel vat that had to run off electricity. And most of them just could not afford it, so just about it began the concentration of all the farms. The rich farmer bought the poor farmer out and combined got the two contracts for the milk, got enough income from the dairy to warrant paying off the bank loan or whatever that he actually had to encumber himself with to buy the farmer and to buy the bloody milk vat. $3,500 doesn't sound much now, but that was the price of a new Holden then.
Yeah.
So not many people had new Holdens, I can tell you.
Yeah, especially these little, 200-acre dairy farms or something.
Yeah, well, you were lucky if you had 30 or 40 acres that was arable. Most of them were on the side of a cliff. You had to go out to Glenifer or somewhere to find, or the Bellingen Valley itself was pretty cool, but Raymond's owned most of it, it seemed, at the time. They bought a lot of land out at Kalang too. And APM, they were the other godsend. They were buying out local farmers. They were paying, I think it was $45 an acre for dairy farms that were cleared, and then they planted them out with trees, and they were going to chip them and send them to Japan. Ted Hillier was the only local who I knew who was most adamantly against wood chipping. He was the one who alerted me to it, and I guess when we had the shop, that was when we started having no wood chips no, or whatever.
The problem with the wood chips was they cleared fellet, wouldn't they, to get the wood chips? And that was...
Oh yeah, they made the, I think that was, I can't remember. Yeah, the wood chips, it was always the promise, you got the expectation they were going to just leave what the loggers left behind. The loggers were going to get the nice big central trunk, the sawmill log, and take it off on the back of the big timber jinker, and all the rubbish, so-called rubbish that was left behind, the wood chippers were going to come along and turn it into little chips and put it in the back of the truck. But of course, anybody who's ever cleared up after dropping a tree on the ground realises it's not easy just to pick up all those little bloody branches, and there's just no money in it. Wood chippers wanted the big log too, that they could run it through a giant big shredding machine that would turn it into chips. I don't think I've seen anything on this road so far that I recognise except the tree ferns and the river, but even the rivers look different because they're much further below the road level.
I had exactly the same experience, and that's why I was interested to see.
Well, this armour guard, you were supposed to try and stay on the road. If you went over the edge, well, you hope Carl Foster or someone would come along and be able to retrieve you, rescue your poor old FJ Holden or whatever you were driving. This is quite glacial along here. We just scooted along here on the motorbike.
It was always, I remember it was always hairy, that you never knew what you're going to meet around the corner.
On the corner, yeah.
And it's still got that.
And all the new settlers as they came along, just about everybody who came up here had a head-on in their first few months until they learnt the etiquette of not driving too fast on these roads because it said 100k, or because you wouldn't expect to meet anybody on a quiet country road. When you do, it's hard in the mouth stuff, it's really... And of course there were the PMG linesmen who used to come out here, and one of them famously used to go around looking for dote crops because a lot of people planted under the lines because they had good access. And
there's some sun,
he had a boy or two who became quite adept at it themselves. I think they all got busted in the finish, but whatever. It did become a little bit of a local thing. First of all, it was the hippies who were getting blamed, but after a while a few of the local lads, and sometimes their mums and dads, thought, this was back when you could sell a pound of dope for about $400 or something like that, and so $400, there's people working here for $50-60 a week, so $400 sounded like a nice little earner.
It was a real integral part of the economy.
It was, yeah. A hell of a lot of people, I figure, and bought little farms for under 10 grand, sometimes 6 and 7, and that was how they intended to pay them off. They might have borrowed $1,000 off their mum and dad, and they were going to grow a little crop and pay for them. And plus they were going to save all this money they weren't spending on buying dope in Sydney, Brisbane.
But it was a bit of an art to have a successful grow. Every time I tried to grow, like a fire would come, or someone would rip it off, or the kangaroos. You come back to your plot and there'd be all these kangaroos kind of bouncing sideways, and you think, oh no, they're into it.
And of course all the really good soil and water was right beside the river, and a lot of people started out thinking, oh well, this would be a good place, you can stick a shovel in here and it's nice loamy soil, and keep a bucket there in the lantana and water this. Then the January, February floods came and washed out the whole bloody crop. I can remember people coming into the shop saying, I'm ruined, I'm ruined. My whole crop's been washed down the river, I can't even find a trace of it. Where's that? Is that the hall? I think it is. Yeah, that's there's a tennis court there now. We drove out from town today. I hadn't been out here in, God, I don't know, 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognise a single bloody thing until we got to the hall. And all I saw was the gap. I said, God, that's where the hall used to be, I think. And then I looked round to the right, and then I saw the new hall. And I remember you telling me about the big door you put in the back of the stage so you could bring in any heavy shit that you wanted. I knew we were there, but it's a nice building.
Yeah, lovely.
There was a couple of women there today who are sort of work with the hall now, who lived next door on that property. Yeah, we were standing at the kitchen counter talking to them, and they were...
Brian Childs and others have put a real lot of time in it. Tina did all the stonework.
Right. So, these ones at least... don't look like they're going to wash away every time it rains. I might just park here if this is not a driveway. Oh, it's just the path down to the creek, to the swimming hole. No dogs, cats, hunting or fishing. That was Brian's sort of rules for Cook's Creek, was that there was no cats or dogs or soap in the creek. It's funny sitting here looking at this wall because I've got film of that wall just with sky all around it. Right. It's just looks so good.
Happy to see all that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'm hoping to take it down to Sydney to show Joan and the kids at Christmas. I usually go down, and when I come back I'll put it on YouTube if it's received okay. But I'll hopefully have a couple of pictures from here. I should get out in just take a couple, if you don't mind, of try and get an overall so that they'll know where I am. I took one from the driveway, you know, the path up, and it just looked like the jungle. They're going to build their new council chambers there, but having got that, then I had to turn around and convince. Well, I didn't know who Robert Coughlin was, but I found out very quickly he was a shareholder in Cook's Creek, and he was a pseudonym for Brian in a way. And Brian was really good about it, though. He was he could see the joy of getting this whole building, and plus he didn't really want to have to shift the thing. I mean, it was, Jesus, they were still building a bit of a loft over at Greg and Martha's to put the material in, and it was a very modest little mop. You could have put all this in it, but not the primary school.
Well, Greg and Martha's, I think it's still standing up.
Is it?
Only by molecular memory. It's fucking well overdue to fall over. The shelter fell down.
The temple?
The temple fell down bloody last year, the year before. It's still sort of, it's lying on the ground, you can still sort of get in under it, but it's just the roof of the bloody poles all fell over.
How did Brian take that?
Well, he hasn't been near it for years, so I don't know.
Right, he's given up meditating.
Well, no, he's still doing that.
Then we'll turn around there and we'll stroll once more. Yeah. I said stroll down, yeah, rock and roll in. When it's rocking and rolling and we're hipping and we're strolling, rocking our soul. You know I love to stroll. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Everybody rocking, everybody strolling, everybody rocking and a rolling at Florida tonight.
Hello. TV running, but I haven't got footage responding. Hello.
We had to be innovative enough to get out of Sydney, didn't we?
Yeah.
Make the step.
Yep.
You know,
Just jumping off the deep end,
we used-
give up your job, your career.
We used to sit round, you know, Denza Squallow drinking 60-cent flagons of wine, you know. I didn't smoke dope then, but some of the others did. And discussing just what's going on now.
Right.
Been sitting around for 46 years waiting for the fucking the world to fucking implode, and it still hasn't happened.
Yeah.
No, but it is. It's just it's slow.
It's just slower than
Yes,
we think.
It's just slow. It takes a bit longer than
Yeah,
you think. You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
that.
We're
but
pretty
basic-
impatient.
Basic.
So,
Well, it's not going to go with a bang.
no.
The thing is, it's happening now. Right? I went to try and get a loan the other day. $5,000. No, I didn't want it. I only wanted 3. And I couldn't get a loan for 3, but I've been banking with these motherfuckers in there.
When I went to the council and asked them for that primary school, they said, look, the only reason we've got it is because we're going to knock it down and build a new council chambers there. This one's too small. And it was pretty bloody obvious the one they were in was too small.
You know how we got it, don't you?
Well, I'm just telling you, this was my version because I was there at the council meeting and I said, why don't you let the public have it? And they said, oh, we can't because it's already tendered out.
Tendered
got
out.
Yeah,
And
well, I knew that. I was there.
And I put in 6 tenders.
Okay, well, the one who got it was R. Coughlin for $350. I remember that.
He lives on the farm.
Yeah,
John Hodges,
Yep.
asked him, and okay, if I put a quote in for you, you know, and Bob Coughlin and whoever, no, half a dozen I put in.
The first time we ever had anything in the community centre, to my rememberings, was in that room, and it was only days after we got the key, if there was a key, and we had all these people come in with flutes, and they did a little concert in there with candles all around. There was no power or nothing, but there was maybe five flautists, if that's the word.
Right.
And that was just so beautiful, and that's a lovely little room. It was almost a cube, eh? Yeah.
No, well, the first thing we did there was start the kitchen up.
Yeah, well, that's where Haley had a gig.
Yeah, we got the kitchen going and making chapatis and
Lemongrass.
and lemongrass.
Another thing you did there that was really, really good was putting the sprinklers up in those big camphor laurels between the comm centre and the RSL.
Yeah.
And people would come out of the RSL and they'd be wiping their faces and saying, Jesus, I didn't think it was going to rain tonight. And they're all,
You had the sprinklers on.
yeah, that was beautiful. When was it his idea or ours or yours to have the rainforest display there?
Well, I just think
It was a bloody miracle. I remember Benton
that-
going out to
that was
his
over
place with a mob of people looking for frogs and snakes and stuff, and you mixing up about 10 gallons of this kind of blue paint.
dark blue.
Yeah,
right over.
I rolled it. I bloody near rolled that by myself. I think there was acres of it. I think there was about 10 gallons of the bloody stuff.
Yeah, no, I was a crazy after it. I said, no.
The other thing I remember
That was
about
it.
then that was really, really good was building that, I don't know, a gantry, I guess, for the lights, because I remember sitting up there with you, watching shows and moving the lights around a bit, having a few smokes, looking down at everybody. Oh, God.
Well, that was a variety
A variety show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I
And
think...
we came about 3 times, and every time with a pack them out, and there's people hanging in those big windows, you know, those small rooms.
Wonderful
people hanging
windows.
there just to see it.
And that... I'm going to ask Gillian, because I don't think I'd remember or you remember, but who were all the tenants who were in there when we got the CIS thing, you know, and all the people. I know the library was one of the first ones to come in that was really a gilt-edged sort of thing, you know.
We gave them a room.
The what?
I gave them the front room there.
Yeah, that was
so much more... better light and better empty space.
Oh, yeah, well, upstairs over the Memorial Hall was a joke in the projection box.
And so that was a, you know, people were pretty happy with that kind of move.
Oh, yeah. I remember you writing up a big sign. We rented one of the shops up near Raymond's there, and you wrote on there, you know, Labor headquarters or something. We had a Labor office. Bellingen had voted 99% Nationals or Country Party for the last 100 years. Yeah,
they still do.
I don't know whether you remember it, but the night before that market, we stayed at the community centre. It was always a big thing about you're not allowed to sleep there and things like that.
Yeah.
And we said, oh, well, we won't be sleeping. We're just guarding all the shit that we had there for the next day. And Hayley was there too.
Yeah.
And she had, I think Heather or Joan or someone had given her a big bunch of lemongrass. And the next morning she started making lemongrass tea. And by 7 o'clock that night, she'd boiled up the same bunch of lemongrass. God, I don't know how many 100 cups of tea she made. Because there was nothing to, you know, there wasn't anything really much to drink. And somebody had some dope cookies there. I don't know who that would have been. And they were going out to selected customers with the lemongrass tea. So the whole day turned into... I think my favourite thing there was the Lions Club caravan where they were doing hamburgers and pies and stuff next door to the...
Pigs.
Well, yeah, but next door, I was thinking of the girls from Darkwood who had the massage tents. That was absolutely classic. All these girls wearing about as little as you could possibly wear and doing this massage tent, and the Lions guys just there with their tongues hanging out. Everybody with their tongues hanging out for that matter. It was so beautiful. What do you reckon was the most successful thing that ever happened there? Certainly the market was the biggest stirrer. I mean, I don't think there was ever anything top that. Just for a shitstorm.
They nearly got into trouble for that, didn't they?
Oh, they did. That's more or less what caused the public meeting, I reckon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Max Mills got up and said we're a bunch of bloody... No, it was McLaughlin. Dr. McLaughlin said we're a lot of leeches on the
Society's tit.
No, on the back, on a ship, you know. Like
barnacles.
Like barnacles on the bottom of the boat. They are. They have their babies in the bush and they do this and do this.
Yeah, John McLaughlin was a bit of a strange character.
Because I was going to sue him for defamation, you know. We already contacted the barrister in Canada. And, but Jack came and said it's best not to do it.
Right. There was that Jack Iggulden.
Yeah, Jack
right.
Iggulden.
Yeah, he was a wise old soul.
Yeah. He had a saying there, I'll always stand by the conviction of my prejudices.
Yeah, that sounds like Jack.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
No, well, it doesn't matter. I remember the first time I ever saw Jack was with John Oakley at the Memorial Hall, and they were having the initial meeting of the Bellingen Valley Conservation and Protection and Tree Huggers Society, and John Oakley was sitting up there with a beautiful white shirt and a union tie and a reefer jacket. And I didn't even recognise him when I walked in. Do you remember the night before the market? We'd got the Courier Sun to print up about 1,500 handbills that you'd done the drawing for. You don't happen to have one of them, do you? Any of that artwork? I wish
Oh,
the hell
I do.
kept it.
I've got stacks of it in there. I can.
Is it dry?
I've got some in here. Do you want a drink or something?
Oh, yeah, whatever. It's.
I've got some.
I'd love to see the
I've got
thing.
some seaweed there.
I don't know about seaweed. I was hoping it was going to be.
Put it on your dope plant.
Yeah.
That sounds a good idea. If I had a dope plant. But do you have a box of your treasures?
I've got a folder here, I think.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Let me have a look. No, I think it's another one in there.
I just wished I had some good photos of the signs you did for the shop. You know, those really nice shops. They're beautiful. I'd love the one you did of the...
I've got one, I think there's a smaller folder in there with Bundage shit on it and stuff, you know?
Right, some of the storyboard, some of that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually trying to put together a little film about Bundagin too. It's got people like Benton in it. There's one under there I can see. That's the Bundagin one, I've got that.
Yeah, well, it was Benton and I that started it. But he was down that house down there,
Right, yeah.
living with
Isabel, yeah, yeah.
And he used to come up and try and get me drunk on a Friday night. So
That'd be
come on,
bloody nice.
Keesey. We got this 400 acres down there on the coast, and all we need. Anyhow, he pestered me, and then one night he said, "Yeah, all right, then we'll do it.
Right.
As long as we've got these rules, no cats and dogs, no and regular meetings, and everybody pays a contribution." But then it went into a cooperative, and I opted out.
What's that one?
Maggie's Farm.
The magazine.
Mm.
No, I haven't seen that one. That's a nice one. Is that Pip Wilson?
Pip Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on it was on the cover of one, I think.
Probably was.
I'll have to show that to Pip.
Yeah. I'll just might see if I can get a snap of it if I can. If I can remember where I left the bloody camera.
Valley Boys. And mucking about, remember, well, that might have been from a Kalang newsletter.
Where's the Maggie's one? Is that just a couple down?
Yeah.
That's it. If you just lie it straight down, I'll just get above it. Now, what got me going was Pamela Whitehead.
Yeah, well, she was out here the other day.
She told me that, and I was cross at her because I said, "Oh, we should go out and see Keesey one day," and she said, "Yeah, that'd be good." And then a couple of weeks later, she's saying, "Oh, I got out to Keesey's place the other day, and he's really great. Yeah, he's really well. And he's doing this, and doing that." Wow, this looks like an acid trip drawing almost. Isn't it? It's quite weird. You're really good at that detail.
And I'm finding now that as I get older, I'm too attached to my bloody detail.
Unfortunately, there's lots of nice things in there, but the things I was really hoping to find were the things that said, you know, the things that you did about Bellingen, the actual.
Yeah, well, I don't have.
I don't know how many of them there were. There must
Oh,
have been.
there's Eagles.
Yeah, there were. There were so many. I wrote so many of the bloody things. That's why I remember them so well, because I can just remember being so impressed that you'd sit down there and start drawing them up right there on the spot.
Yeah, that used to be fun.
And I was really impressed that John Rose, I think his name was, down at the Courier Sun, he would photocopy them or something and then print off 500 for $10 or something stupid.
I know, he's good.
Because that's how we got that crowd to the
market.
To the market. We sent the bloody things. They went everywhere from the border to Newcastle to bloody Inverell, I think. You know, like we really got rid of piles and piles of them.
Trying to inspire people and getting agreements before we ever went to a meeting. You know, don't just get to me and say, no. And I was chairperson, and I wouldn't table a motion if there's going to be dissent. We're very fortunate though, because we're a block here.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like, unlike Thora, where you had two rednecks and a hippie.
Mm.
More rednecks, hippie. Like,
Yeah.
But we had like 10 kilometres of road.
Yeah.
The only hippies lived there.
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody was into homebrew.
Yeah.
Smoked a bit of dope.
Yeah.
And the food, it runs for miles. You know, everybody brought along a plate, two or something.
Well, Cook's Creek is a good name for food, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your mum and your wife and Joan and many
Joan
other
and
people
Kate.
were all such good cooks.
Everybody contributed.
You know, there's a big world rally thing they're having in Coffs, you know, like where they want to have all these hotshot rally drivers from around the world. They've made it a big thing in Coffs. But I remember out here when it used to run through the Kalang Road, you got up on the hill one night beside your mum's place and you tossed flower bombs at the cars. And that was the last time the rally ever came to Kalang.
No, we had a few wins, but we were bloody arrogant.
Yeah, a little bit.
We were fucking arrogant.
Yeah, but you're also visionary.
Yeah.
No, we were cheeky, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.